What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Next Deal podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dossie. As always, we are joined by Vince Hall. Please make sure to like, subscribe, give us a follow, 5-star reviews, all that kind of stuff really helps us to just get this podcast out and help as many people as possible. Today, we're joined by our good friend, Nick Thiel. Nick has been involved in real estate for about 7 years, has done 40 deals himself, and has been a part of over 300 flips working for others. And he's just starting to also breed Rottweilers as well, and purebred Rottweilers, if I am not mistaken from what you said. So going to have a really good conversation around rehabbing, dogs, all kinds of fun stuff, I'm sure. Nick, thanks for coming on today, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, just to kind of get started, like we always like to do just a quick little intro to our guests, or have you kind of intro yourself on like how you got started. I know you've, like one thing you said in your onboarding message that we sent you was you're just a normal dude who just learned from experiences, right? So kind of curious just how you got started and, what your journey's looked like so far, and we'll take it from there, man.
Yeah, man. So it's kind of crazy. About 11 or 12 years or so ago, I had never even owned a tool, never even had picked up a hammer. I was, I was probably as big of a loser as you can be from, 16 to 20, 21 or so. I just had no desire for anything. And I didn't know anything. I didn't want anything. I was just kind of living and breathing and just going through the motions. And then one day, I conceived a child with a woman that I was working one of my odd jobs with. And man, I grew up in a super small family with no dad. So it was just something that was always real close to me, that I just knew that given the opportunity, like I was going to be a rock star dad. It didn't matter to me. It was almost just really deep ingrained in me that was just going to be the case no matter what. And when it happened, life kind of all crashed down on me at one time. And I had the harsh realization that I just didn't know anything. I was 21. I didn't know how to do anything other than walk down the street and fill out applications at the dollar store back when people used to do that. I didn't know shit. I didn't know how to buy a car. I didn't know how to rent an apartment. I mean, I lived in my mom's basement on a mattress, and I'm bringing a child into this world. Like, it was a harsh reality that like I wasn't a great dad. I was shit. I was a shitty human being at the time to bring any life into this world. So I had failed before I had even begun. And that was hard. And it was a big realization, like you don't know anything. You hold no value, and I took that and when I realized that, I was done. I completely, it was like a switch, man. It flipped and it was over. So I found out probably like 2 months in that we were having the baby, right? So as soon as I found that out, I got a second job. So now I was working day and night, 5 days a week. That's all I knew how to do.
Yeah.
All I knew how to do was go work. I worked at the hospital as a radiology assistant, and I worked at Subway as quote unquote a sandwich artist, because
Sandwich
that
artist,
is the title
yeah.
they give you.
Sandwich artist.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I took pride in that. I made a damn good Subway sandwich. So, I did that for 7 months. I did that until my son was born. I worked every day, day and night, saved up as much money as I could. That's all I knew. And, I realized that just wasn't enough, so I just had to keep going. So then after he was born, I just asked around, what should I do? I don't know what to do. My mom was like, well, be an electrician. They make good money. I was like, fine, fuck it. I think in between that, I had even tried to go to the military. So I went and I filled out the ASVAB, the other tests. I filled out all these tests for the military. That didn't pan out. So I was just, that didn't pan out. I got nothing. So I asked, my mom said electrician. I said, fine. I drove myself up to the closest trade school. I walked in and I said, how do I do this? They sat me down in the financial aid office in front of a computer, and I just started filling shit out. Couldn't get in there. I didn't have, living with my mom, working 2 jobs. Apparently I was in this weird where like I didn't qualify for financial aid. And, but one of the ladies in there wanted to help me. So she told me to write a letter that said I had a child and I was 50%, custody of the child, and that would qualify me for financial aid. So I did that and came back, and the second time, and they finally let me in. And that was it for me. I got into electrical school at Vatterott. It was at the Berkeley Vatterott off of the Hanley station.
Yep.
Like the worst learning environment you could ever pay to be in. I'm a horrible student. Even to this day, I'm a horrible student. I dropped out of high school twice. Dropped out, got bored, went back, tried it again, was like, no, this really wasn't for me. Dropped out again. Ended up getting my GED the same year I would have graduated. That's why I was able to just jump into into the trade school. But still, horrible student. That's all I knew how to be. So when I got into Vatterott, I said, all right, well, I don't know how to be a good student, but I know how to be a bad student. So I'm going to do everything the opposite. I sat in the back. I'm going to sit in the front. So I sat in the front row. I said I didn't care, and I focused on everything but what the person was saying. I'm going to focus on only what the person is saying. And I graduated 18 months later out of electrical school with honors, with perfect attendance, with a 4.0.
Awesome.
I did my first side job with one of my electrical instructors. And it was during the electrical school that I really realized like I was good with working with my hands. I really enjoyed it. I had a passion for fixing things and solving problems. And I decided I was going to start like a handyman business. The same, any guy with a tool bag. Yeah, I'm going to be a handyman. So August of 2014, I started a handyman business while I was a sales associate at a Valvoline. I started a handyman business. I started off just doing what I knew, man. I would replace light switches. I did a lot of landscaping. Mailboxes was my thing for a while. I was doing 3-4 mailboxes a day, 4x4 posts and setups. And man, I just started from there, man, as one guy in a pickup truck and a tool bag. And I started doing what I knew. I mean, I literally was the guy sitting up at Home Depot with my name on the side of a truck and a phone number trying to get, stuff to crack. Yeah. And it just evolved from there. I realized awesome. I didn't want to be a handyman. I wanted to do bigger things. So I stopped taking smaller jobs and I started directionalizing my business towards the bigger jobs, towards the remodels and towards the investment stuff in the real estate agent stuff. I didn't want to have like that homeownery relationship because that's like a bond between you and the homeowner. I wanted to deal with people that wanted to make money at a volume and move fast and, structure and create wealth with my skills. So I just kind of slowly moved the business there. It went from me and a guy to I was able to get my wife to quit her job about 7-8 years ago, and she came on and she was actually working in the field with me for a couple of years. So me, a guy, and my wife, and then from there, me and 2 guys and my wife, me and 3 guys, and now I got a team of 8 guys. All the equipment we have is company owned, so all the vans. I don't hire guys with skills and equipment. I buy the equipment. I buy the tools. I buy the vehicles. I provide the credit lines, the gas cards, the everything. And I hire guys that are mechanically inclined, honest, hardworking dudes, with responsibility. They really want to kind of get a level up. And now I got a team of 8 of the best individuals that are out here rehabbing houses. And we have a great time. It's a great environment. It's a happy environment. It's it's a environment filled with kind of, focused on growth and education and doing better, doing our best until we know how to do better, and then doing better, not really focused on the mistakes, because there's mistakes everywhere. And if you're going to beat somebody up over every mistake, you're never going to encourage people to do more than they're comfortable with. So
Right.
it's been a long,
Yeah.
it's been a long, interesting road to go from, 11 years ago, not owning a tool, to here, but
Yeah.
I've loved every minute of it, man.
And kids change a lot when that's a surprise too, right? Like that seems to be the thing that you were like, all right, I need to figure this shit out now. What do I
Absolutely.
do? Like actually, I don't even know how old you are, but like I had my first kid at 20, right? And I was the same thing. Like I didn't go to college. Like I knew some like trade stuff working with my dad. I was like ran wires for him and did like low voltage type stuff with him. But it was like as soon as I had a kid, I was like, all right, I gotta stop fucking around and do something different. Like I gotta figure out something more. And we've got 3 now, and it's just the more we've had them, the more it's like it's inspiring and empowering for me to just continue to grow and do things. So it's really cool to see where you've come in that time frame. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I'm trying to recall some of the things that you just said and where I want to start. With some
Yeah, sometimes I talk without punctuation,
No,
so
yeah. No, there's a lot of really good gems in there to talk about. I guess I want to get back to the electrical school stuff. So I actually grew up around an electrician. My dad was an electrician, and I'm originally from Alaska, and he would take me on his job sites and stuff, and I'd be like 6 years old and put on a little tool belt and stuff, and he'd be like, hey, take this hammer and put some nails in it, just while he's working and things like that. But like,
it's just a piece of wood by itself off to the side.
Yeah. Like you graduated with a 4.0. Obviously it switched something in your head, right? We were like, oh, I love doing this, So like, what was it about that part of the business in the electrical world that you were like, man, I just grabbed hold of this, ran with it, had a passion for it, like what was that kind of clicking mode there?
Man, you know what? I really think it was more of I was happy to be learning and be good at something,
Yeah.
like, because I was at a point in my life where I didn't have a dad that was an electrician. I'd never, I mean, like my mom said it on the couch while she was on the computer playing Second Life. It wasn't like a thought out process. I did it because I was a guy that was at like rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So when I flipped that switch, man, again, like I knew how to be shitty. So I just did the opposite of everything that was. And when I started to really, I almost feel like I could have done anything. And just when I started to learn it and when I started to become good at it, I said, okay, well, I'm going to roll with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to roll with it as hard as I can, with everything that I got. So I almost feel like, they could have told me to go to clown school and the Ringling Brothers pay great. And, you'd be talking to me about how I made an awesome career as, the rehabber, the clown, because at that point in my life, I was just looking for anything to latch onto, and anything that let me near it, I was going to dominate it. And that was just my state of mind. Like, tell me how to get 100, and I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do anything but that. And there's going to be no way you can't give me my 100. And that was just the state of mind I was in for whatever I was doing at the time.
Yeah. Fast forward to 11 years. What part of the rehabbing or contracting part do you enjoy the most, where you're like, oh man, this is an art for me?
So seeing so many and being able to like have the vision of what this old house can look like when it's done, mm-hmm. That's probably my favorite, non-construction related part. Having that skill over all of these years to where I can walk in and see homes and basements and configurations in different ways than most people because of all of the different configurations that I've seen come to fruition that actually work.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy having that vision of being able to kind of see how I'm going to get from A to Z. And then having that technical knowledge of being able to fill in the rest of the letters is kind of like my ace in the hole that keeps me ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But I will say that electrical is my favorite part of the construction, and the part that I preach to anybody that's like trying to get more into personal rehab to go to school for, because I've taught a lot of people a lot of different things. Electrical, I've never been able to really teach somebody how to understand it. Without the background knowledge of how it works, because it's one of those things you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't really touch it
until it zaps you.
So, exactly. But you don't really know, exactly how it works until you get educated on the entire process, from the power plant to the substation to the transformers to the pole to the panel. You know what I mean? And that having that knowledge is what really allows you to troubleshoot the houses.
Yeah.
And when I do go into these places and like completely like lay these things out, right, and blow it open, you're left with wire city, crazy wire. That's the one thing that's just everywhere. Switches, outlets, J connections all over. And one of the biggest values that I add to the projects that I purchase is my ability to move those things, personally as the guy purchasing the house. Whereas an investor is going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for an electrician to come in and troubleshoot and understand the wiring after a demo crew has just knocked the walls down with zero consideration. And then they're going to have to figure out how to put it back. Well, I'm the guy who can assess before I rip it out where I want it to go and then place it there before the chaos. So it makes it so much easier for me to completely just change the landscape on the inside of homes, that I preach to go and get that technical understanding of that system. Because the other things you can kind of learn by trial and error as you go. Not to shit on any other trade. Everything is important. I am by far, not the master of every trade and every aspect of rehab. I try to learn the way things are supposed to be, and I just try to stick to doing it that way.
Yeah, I'm actually like sitting in a house that we rehabbed, and I did all the electric in the house myself. So all the switches, all the outlets, all the can lighting, all the rerouting of things, got in the attic. My contractor's like, "Man, we could do this for you." I was like, "No, I'm gonna save $4,000 probably myself." And I would leave at 4:00 in the morning from the previous house, and my wife's like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I gotta work on some can lighting,"
Yeah.
But before some other things, but that like I really enjoy it, the electrical side of things. I just think there's like nothing sexier than getting an old house and taking out the old outlets that are all crusty and putting in a new one, like putting in a fresh box in there too. Yeah.
Bringing life back. I mean, what is a house besides the mechanics that makes it a house? Other than that, it's just walls and a roof. The systems, the electric, how functional things are, how well thought out and well placed they are. That's what makes these houses flow. And that's the difference between walking into them and being like, meh, and walking into them and being like, oh, okay, yeah, this is nice. It flows well.
Yeah.
So that's really important when we do these houses, is to make them feel good.
Yeah. I want every switch and outlet to match too.
Yeah. Funny story real quick. We just filmed ads for Call Porter and Ballpoint in January, and one of the Airbnbs we had the light switches to the bathroom on the outside of the bathroom with the shared wall that they could have literally just flipped and like pulled the wires to the other side and had it in the bathroom. I was like, this is the weirdest thing.
Well, here I am thinking about those switches on the outside. I'm a prankster. I'm like, oh, dude, if Justin's in that shower, I'm freaking turn off those lights, and I'm
Yeah.
leaving. In order for him to turn those lights off, he's got to get out of the shower, open up the door, go in the hallway. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, what a stupid design.
Yeah, well, so that's the thing is people buy these houses and they don't know an aspect or two, so they skip that part. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of kitchen and bath remodels done where they try to do the cabinets, the tile, and all the things around, but they don't change the old configuration to match the new layout. So you end up with an outlet, right behind the oven, and just things in weird spots, real low.
Yep.
And that's because, I mean, honestly, just people do what they can. Sorry, that's my office phone, the management company. She's
you're
all
good.
1 second.
Yeah, you're good.
We can always cut it out.
Yeah, we can.
Where is it? Shut up. Okay. Yeah.
I'll make a note of
I
it.
unplugged it, so the office is closed right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that, fellas.
No, you're good. We can edit that part out. Cool. But yeah. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, not only when you're rehabbing, but like changing the configuration to something that makes sense, right? And that, especially if times have changed, like that house, I think was probably, I don't know, built in the '60s, maybe would be my guess. Vinny,
we were at,
you think way earlier?
It's 100 years old, easy.
Okay.
Old
as dirt. Yeah. It was right over by WashU.
Remember that basement was so scary you didn't even go down the stairs.
Yeah, I wasn't going down there. No way. There's no lights or anything. It was all like a dirt ground. I was like, I'm good. I'll stay upstairs.
Yeah, I've been in those. Yeah, those get a little sketchy.
Yeah, and it was like, and it was, I don't know. It was a weird layout of a house, but I'm curious, kind of, I saw you speak at an event here in St. Louis a couple months ago where you kind of went through like your steps when you're looking or managing a rehab. I know there's a lot that went into that. It was a whole, an hour long conversation, but for people that are listening that are trying to manage rehabs on their own or just getting started, what's kind of like a few key things that you look for, that you focus on when you do that? Like, it could be even as simple as the order of things as you do a rehab on a house, right? Like,
yep. So just real brief kind of a time frame, start to finish, right? And there's these things are complex. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
So there's obviously not one situation for all things. But couple strategies I use. So first, I tend to deal with if it's an overgrown house or if it's a house that's dilapidated, the ugliest house in the neighborhood, trash, stuff like that. I deal with the outside first because that makes the neighbors like you. And if you get busted, 90% of the time, it's going to be the neighbors. So my first step when I come to the house, I like to make the neighbors my friends. So I'll clean up the house. I'll really make the house look better. Just even go as far as knocking on doors, introducing myself, letting them know, hey, we'll be working next door, providing my card, call me, just making myself over accessible, very friendly, letting them know we're going to do a nice remodel, help neighborhood values, the whole shebang. So I try to make my initial presence a very friendly thing. And I'll speak to this too. I don't use dumpsters. And I had a conversation at a networking meeting last night where a lady said that she used my dumpster strategy and she said it worked perfectly. And she heard me at the same event say this. So I don't use dumpsters because dumpsters create, even if you know nothing about real estate or construction, if you see a 40-yard dumpster sitting in a garage or in a driveway outside of a garage, something real estate or construction is happening at that facility.
Mm-hmm.
Your standard house isn't dropping a 40-yard dumpster out, right?
Yeah.
So they're just beacons that scream, hey, look what I'm doing. So I don't use them. But then there's been situations in hoarder houses where I need to use them for financial reasons, where it just doesn't make sense to have it carted out in trailers. And the strategy that I use to put dumpsters at houses is I only have them drop the day before the load. and then I schedule them to be pre-picked up the day after the load. So my dumpsters sit at my properties max 3 days. I'm not letting it sit any longer than that. And after the load day, I let the house rest for at least a week. And that's the strategy that she used that she said works well. Because over that 3-day period, all these different people saw that dumpster. And now a lot of different people may come and inquire, city, inspectors, other people in the neighborhood, junk guys, whatever. So we drop the dumpster, we load it up, we have it picked up, and then we let that house sit for about a week. We don't go back to it. Nobody goes back. No work takes place. That lets the neighborhood calm down. That lets the neighbors kind of relax. That lets the people who may have seen the dumpster forget that there was ever a dumpster even there. And then a week or two later, when you come back to start the rehab again, it's like a fresh slate. Now you're just coming in. It's empty. It's quiet. Nobody really concerned with you there. You're not making a big fuss in the neighborhood back to back to back to back. So she says she used that same strategy at a house that she was doing, and she felt like it worked great. They were able to do the whole clean out. They had the dumpster pulled. They just, did some other parts that are a little bit more passive on the rehab, planning and things of that nature while the house sat for a week. And then when they came back, they were able to just kind of go gangbusters, and nobody had no problems.
I like that idea.
Yeah, so that's some of my strategy for the upfront, right? To kind of present myself to the neighborhood well, because you're going to have a relationship with these people directly around you for the next 3 months, whether you like it or not, So after you kind of, put your best foot forward, then you got to start the rehab. So step 1 is the demo and clear out, right? And when I say demo, you do it all. You do it all right there, because the one thing you don't touch in the corner is going to be the thing that you're cutting open when the house is finished, because you should have fucking touched that one thing.
Yep.
I've had whole houses where I don't do the electrical devices till the end. And then I come into an electrical device and wires burnt up 6 inches back up the box. Now over carpet, I'm cutting a big hole and adding a J-box and doing all this other stuff in a finished space because these wires are burnt up. Whereas if you would have addressed the mechanics of the house up front, you would avoid a lot of these pitfalls, right? So we do the demo first, and we get it all out. From the up main level to the lower level to the utility, whatever's in the house that's not going to be in the house when I sell the house is gone. Gotta go. All right. So then I have to clean it, empty. Then I have a clean slate. Now you can see everything. Every question that you had when you bought that house should now be opened and exposed during this demo stage, because you're going to open the walls that have to be opened. You're going to do all the things that need to be done to address any questions or concerns that you have, right? After you demo and everything's gone, then you want to address all the mechanics, the mechanical rough-in, and the mechanical repair. That would be next. So to me, that's the electrical system. That's the plumbing systems. That's the drain systems. That's the HVAC systems. You want to make sure that this gutted box works. You want to make sure that everything is where it needs to be for the new kitchen layout while the walls are opened up. So while the walls are opened up, you want to have the outlets moved to the correct orientation. You want to have the new wire runs for the independent runs for the microwave done. You want to, tweak the water lines to where you want the new sink, as well as, address the outlets and switches in the general locations that may not be getting gutted out. Make sure the bathrooms are up to code with bath fans, switch GFCIs, things of that nature. So address all the mechanics. Make sure the house is mechanically functional throughout the entire property. This is right after the demo. It's at that stage, to me, as the rehabber that's done over 300 projects, that I'm basically done. I feel done at that point. That's where I check the rehab off in my brain as like, okay, I've gutted the box. I've repaired all the mechanical functions of the box. Now putting the box back together is the absolute easy part, right? So this is where
a good base, everything is much smoother.
100%, right? So that's how I'm able to do 6, because by the time I'm past those first couple steps in my book, almost 99% of the problems are solved. And now it's kind of just order of operations from there, right? So after the mechanicals are addressed, I address the structure. So the structure to me is the parts of the house that are not mechanical, but still need to be repaired. So that is frames, doors, window sills, things like that that are not quite just drywall, right? Make sure if you're missing frames in half the house, you get those on. I address closets and simplify. People mangle closets with 25 different shelves that make no sense. So
Yep.
we strip that back down to one shelf, one pole, no problems, right? So this is where we address all the structure repairs. Again, I haven't made a single thing in that house pretty yet. I've been working in the house for weeks. I've demoed it. I've addressed all the mechanics. Now I'm addressing the structure and making sure my trim looks good, my crown molding looks good, everything's in the right places that it needs to be, right? And then we're kind of moving forward with the process. So then you're going to want to close up all your walls, because that's the easy part. You've already addressed all of the mechanics. You've already addressed all of the little nitpicky structural parts of the house on the interior. So now you get all your walls can just close up. That's a drywall team. They go in the house, close it up, easy, no problem, right? Mud and tape guys, they go in there, mud and tape all your walls. Now you got flat walls, no problem. Paint team goes in there. And you see now everything's just falling, right?
Yep.
Paint team goes in there. So now I have a painted, mechanically functional, structurally sound box, right? Still following the order. So now I'm fully painted. Now I'll have my tile work done. I'll have my tile work done in my bathrooms on the walls and the floor. They put the tile right on. The walls are already painted around it. So tile goes on, grout gets done, boom. Bathroom's pretty much done. What do you need? Toilet, vanity, fixtures, it's over, right?
Yep.
So then we'll do the flooring. LVP, hardwood refinish, obviously not carpet. Carpet would be absolutely last. That's where things are situational, right? But if you have a hard surface flooring that needs to go under the trim, then that's where you're going to do that when you do the tile. So this is more like the wall and surface installs, right? So floor installs, tile installs on the wall, things of that nature. After that, then it's install city, right? Now you're just putting it in. You got your floor, you got your painted walls, you got your tile showers, you have everything in place, and you've already made sure mechanically behind all of that, it's ready to go. It's good, right?
Yeah.
So now you just bust out outlet switches, GFCIs, lights, handles, hinges, vanities, toilets, mirrors, kitchen cabinets. Now's the time for whoever likes shopping to go shopping and get all these things at the house at one time. Because whether it's a vanity or a kitchen cabinet or a light, you'd be surprised how similar the tool bag is for installs. So this is the install stage of the process, right? Installs of a light vanity toilet fixture, that's different from laying floor. That's different from tiling, right? You don't jump on top of those things. They're so different.
Yeah.
You follow that order of operations. But then when you're done, you have all these installs. So I'll do this where I buy all of that, and then I lay it out in each section of the house where it goes. I'll start in the back of the house in the bedrooms, and I will go from the back of the house to the front of the house and install everything. Everything from door handles, hinges, vanities, toilets, lights, closet pucks, smoke detectors, door stops, you name it. I'm going to slap it in as I'm walking through the entire house. So in about a day for my team, I could pretty much install everything from the front to the back on a main level in one day. Bathrooms, kitchen faucets, fixtures, disposals, closet handles, hinges, everything.
Do you question on that real quick because you do a lot of these, right? Do you have like a preset list of certain finishes that you're typically doing, from handles, doorknobs, vanities, lighting, fixtures, all that kind of stuff? Or because I've seen some people do it like a case by case basis and try and make each one unique, which I personally don't see being very scalable. Where I would imagine it's kind of a set process, but I'm curious.
Yep. So it's all about what you want, right? So the higher end stuff, 500,000 plus up remodels where you only want to do a couple of those a year. Maybe you spend the time with a designer, you make each one unique. You come up with a vision board, a design plan. That's a strategy, right? My strategy is volume. And with a volume strategy, I need simplicity and structure to be able to control it. So I don't necessarily have a list because I'm the one shopping. But after 300 of these, I do almost everything the same.
You know what you're looking for.
Everything. My color is the same.
You can budget
so
for
the
it
only
easier
thing
too.
way easier. Yeah. So I will tweak some of the stuff that I think it's easy to tweak for each house. So like I'll tweak my LVP color a little bit depending, and I think that's easy to just pick a different color depending on how busy the other things are. I'll tweak lighting a lot because I think lighting is a good way to give a house character, and it's really simple to tweak. You just make a list of the lights that house particularly needs. You can order them online and you can have them delivered right to the house. It's a really simple process to get different lights, and I think lights add character. It's one of the few houses that you're able to like really make something look different.
It's like a statement piece almost.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like because what else is a bedroom, jump out other than a nice light fixture or things like that.
Yeah.
So I'll tweak some of those few things, faucets every now and then. Those things are kind of easy to tweak per house. Even if you have a good contractor or team of construction guys, a lot of times those guys can even pick those things. I don't have a design background. I work off of simplicity. So I tend to match shapes a lot.
Okay.
So like if I do square lighting, I'll do like squared toilets, and I'll use kind of more squared faucets and squared mirrors. And try to tie things that are all over the house together like that. And if I use round lights, I'll use more of a rounded fixtures and rounded faucets and rounded cabinet handles. And I try to seam it together like that. But genuinely, we have one set kind of a process. We're putting this in here, and all the guys know to follow that from that point forward.
Got it. So it's kind of like in the middle of the two. Like you don't have a warehouse of 8,000 light fixtures that you just pluck from. You are ordering it for the house, but it is a similar process, but you are matching things up a little bit specific to that house. Okay. I like that.
Yep. Give the house a little character, but things like my paint color, things that you buy in bulk that is good to like transfer from one house to the other, like tile, flooring, paint color.
Yeah.
Those are things that I tend to keep the same, at least for several houses in a line, because there's financial benefit to that, and there's, keeping things simple, benefits to that. But yeah, I do try to give each one a little bit of character for what it is. Does it have vaulted ceilings? Is the room big? Is the room small? Trying to take into account the space in particular to give it its best, foot forward kind of deal.
I like that.
So, going back to the beginning of the process, when do you when is a property deemed like, hey, this is worth renovating versus like, nope, not touching that? Like, what do you look for in that?
Before I buy it?
Before you even buy, yeah. You're like, yeah, this one's totally worth renovating.
So when I'm going to do my walkthroughs,
or there's
to look at a house,
something, or it's a bad neighborhood, or like what deems something worthy versus I'm not touching it.
Yep. So I think a lot of that is going to be with what you have access to as an individual investor. So when you do these walkthroughs, if you're a foundation guy, when you go into a house, if it has foundation issues, that might be the house you really like because you have the ability to add the value there. Yeah. So it's really very dependent upon what you have the ability to affect in any particular project. So me personally, I look for a good lot and a cute exterior because I don't like changing a lot of that. I don't like changing the look of the home. I can't change where the house sits. So I look for the house to have visual appeal from the shape and where it sits. I look for a certain amount of bed, bath, obviously, and space.
Yeah.
I look for,
$5.
kind of really ugly, stinky houses, though, because we do a lot on the inside. That's my niche. So when a house is super ugly, dirty, really lived in hard, that's scaring other people away, those are the houses that I really love to grab, especially if they're, the kind of people that like to look like they lived good on the outside and kept the house nice on the outside, right, but the inside they live like trash. Because that's where I can affect the value the most on these projects, and I can get my biggest return. So I like them to be cute on the outside and really ugly and stinky on the inside, kind of never been touched, lived in rough.
Cigarette smoke on the walls, all that kind of fun stuff.
That scares everybody away from the interior stuff, just because we have such a great handle. It's almost like I don't care if it's your grandma's kitchen or if the homeless guy's been squatting there for 6 months and shitting in the sink. Like, either way, I'm tearing the kitchen out. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's coming out either way. But you may not want to buy the kitchen that the homeless guy's been shitting in the sink. To me, it's the same as buying the grandma clean.
Yeah.
It's all coming out.
It's going to be fixed at the end anyway. So
absolutely, we're not selling it with that.
Right.
Oh, I love it. It's a kind of, well, it's just a random question here, but do you ever do anything with fire damaged properties? Is that something you stay away from?
So I have done a couple.
Okay.
So the first one I've ever done was really badly burnt all the way through 2 exterior walls. And I actually got paid $2,500 to take it. So it was an investor buddy that I do all his projects, and we manage a bunch of his rentals with our management company. This is early in my career. I get a phone call in like the middle of the night because he doesn't know who the fuck else to call. Him and I have a great relationship. We're doing tons of rehabs together at the time. And he's like, Nick, my fucking house is burned down. And I was like, did I do it? Not one I did, right? I was like, not one of my remodels. And he was like, no, not one you did. One of my other rentals. I was like, all right, I'll meet you over there. This was a little outside of my scope of work, but man, I become friends with a lot of these investors that use me regularly. I got a really strong sense of loyalty, and who else was he going to call? So yeah. I showed up over there with the fire department and the people and everything, and man, this thing was rough. I did some videos on my Facebook page. It was burnt to a crisp, everything black. So we negotiated back and forth a little bit, and Florissant was like holding some of the insurance money. Long story short, if I paid closing costs, he'd split the insurance money with me when he got it back. So it ended up like I got paid $2,500 to take the house, but then I still had to remodel it and then sell it. So yeah, it was full permits. We had Angle Ridge come in. We had to do new roof rafters, new ceiling joists. Wow. We had to prime everything in the attic, rip every drywall, every big piece of drywall off the main floor down to the studs, prime everything with oil-based primer. I mean, there's a whole nother process to do a burn down house. I try to stay away from them because they are very time consuming from a management standpoint. Yeah. There's a whole lot of moving parts to that first demo, mechanical rough-in, structural rough-in part. A whole lot of moving parts to that part of the process. So I try to stay away, but
I had someone refer me one, and I haven't done one before, and I was like, I don't know if I want to touch this.
If the numbers are there and you got the right people in place, it's still just an order of operations, right? Because that's why I took it. I had zero idea, but I'm like, shit, somebody going to pay me $2,500 to take this thing. I think I could get it done. So what I did was I had no idea of some of the costs, but I had the big ticket items bid out first, right? So like
before you bought
Nobody,
it or before you like agreed
yeah,
to do the work.
nobody's like jumping on a burned down house. Those aren't the type of deals that like you have to assess in 20 minutes and make an offer or it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So with those, you do have the added benefit of being able to educate yourself a little bit more on the cost of things and get some people in there before that thing flies off the shelf. Where mostly like people are like, well, you should inspect the sewers and inspect the roof. And by the time I get a good deal in an area that I want to buy in, and I've made 2 phone calls to try to get people to inspect, my deal is gone.
Yeah.
You know, you just don't have time for that. But when you have a burn down, you can make a couple of phone calls. Hey, call your roofer, call your framer, call these guys, get them over there, get the big number. How much is it going to cost to put it back to a house? You know, a roof, joists, windows, siding, all that stuff where it's like repair the structure. And then you can kind of anticipate better the cost of the interior remodel by just giving it a normal remodel, but really accelerating the budget on drywall, mud, tape, paint, framing, you know, those other, you know, areas where it's like extreme, right? So if you break that type of, when you want to break the cost down of acquiring a firehouse, if you break that down into those 3 parts and then add that number together, you're pretty safe. Get your, you know, put the structure back together number, get your, how bad is the drywall and, you know, the interior fire repair to the framing and the drywall stuff. And once you have those 2 numbers, like what would it cost to rehab a house this size traditionally without it being burnt to a crisp?
Yeah.
And then add those 3 numbers together, and that's your safe, this is what it's going to cost me to rebuild the firehouse number.
Oh, cool. I like that. It's a good way. I like that you're very structured with that. With like, that. If A makes sense, B makes sense, C makes sense, let's do it. If not, we're not doing it.
Yeah. So I've actually learned that that's the only way you can be semi-sure of almost anything in real estate, because everything is such bias and so gray. Like, tell me one person that can tell you exactly what the ARV of that house is and gonna get it and gonna get it right every time. Tell me one person that's gonna tell you what the house is gonna appraise for and get it right every time. Tell me one person that's gonna tell you what the construction cost is and get it right every time.
Yep.
There's never an answer that's right. It's always an educated. It's always changing, right?
Yeah.
So if you put these things into like groups and sections that are easier to understand and then add them together, you know, it only makes sense that it gets you a closer conclusion than just trying to make a single assumption on like a whole number and it's 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that.
So,
that's awesome.
Nick, how do you, or it's not you, but how does a person like me, so I got, you know, new business partner, all the contractors that I know that are good, they're booked, man. Like they I'm not going to get them anytime soon. I've got a huge list. They're like, sorry, man. Right.
Yep.
Not going to go to Thumbtack. I feel like, or Angie's. I don't know. Like, I feel like the people that are available are just getting into it. It's like trying to find somebody reputable. I had a nightmare at this current, you know, house that I'm in where my contractor seemed great at the beginning. We had a really good relationship. I come over to the house one day and his truck's here, but he's not. And I'm like, where is this guy? Right. So I get ready to pull out of the driveway and I just look down the street and he's like 3 houses down and he's doing a job for somebody else when he should be working at my house. So I go over there and I start yelling at him and he's like, dude, it's just a small thing. And he, you know, this person knocked on the door while I was working. It's no big deal. And I was like, no, it's a big deal to me. Like, you should be here at my house when you told me in a text message, yeah, I'm working on it, you know? So I find I have like a love-hate relationship with contractors, if I'm being honest, because there's so many shady ones. And I'm like, where do I find a Nick? And how do I stick with him? And how does he stick with me? Because I've done, you know, my oldest kid's 15 and he's lived in like 9 different houses. I like to do the live in it 2 years and then sell it. And, you know, you don't have to pay capital gains on it kind of thing. So I've done a lot of stuff. But the contractor part's tricky. Like it honestly is trying to find that person that you're like, I can trust you. So what advice do you have there?
Yeah, that's always going to be hard because anybody with a hammer. So I tell people when they try to get me to give them like how much stuff costs, like you can go get a $10 crackhead or I can do it for $300 and anywhere in between. That's really the menu you have to choose from when you're out here trying to get work done, man. So it's just super hard.
Yeah.
So preferably you would have these people in place before you need them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Network these guys ahead of time. That's what I preach in my rehab class is network contractors the same way you do wholesalers and lenders and all these other people, like, date them, take them to lunch, talk to them, treat them the same way you treat other business professionals. And if they reciprocate, well, then you know that they're a business professional. You know what I mean? Hold these guys to some really simple, like professionalism core values, right? Communication is key. When it starts to break down in the very beginning, when they're 15 minutes late and don't call to that very first bid, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
I may be being nitpicky, but to me, if we have a brand new relationship, we make a time to be there. Shit happens. If I'm running 15 minutes late, guess what you do if you have proper, healthy business communication? You shoot a text 5 minutes before. Hey, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Sorry. You communicate that fact.
So just show up.
You don't just show up 15 minutes late, right? And that may be nitpicky, but we're trying to weed out a good gem, in a coal pit where it's tons of shitty guys, right? So you almost need to be nitpicky to weed out the real bullshit beforehand, right? So hold these guys to a couple real core values. The price shouldn't unexpectedly change. They shouldn't not show up to your job because their girlfriend, broke her foot or their dog is sick or, that's not your problem. Those are things that when a contractor starts to make his personal life your problem,
right?
That's a really good sign that he's not a business professional, because let's be honest, you don't care about my dog, you care about your house, right? And I appreciate that. It's his business, we're not friends, and as a business, that's the way I should feel that you're gonna feel. So I think a good thing to look for is a very small business that operates with a high perception of professionalism, that is not afraid to put his name out there. If you kind of float in that realm where it's like, okay, this guy's advertising, this guy's talking to people know who this guy is, he looks and speaks, professional, he communicates well, those are the right signs that you have a guy that you can deal with. But then the other stuff you're not going to like, which is like, you're going to have to wait. The good guys are busy. They're booked, man. They're not.
I definitely
get
the waiting part.
Waiting for your project. You know what I mean? And if you want that guy to latch onto you, you're going to have to be easy. Because from a perspective of a contractor, if you're difficult, then you make my life harder. And now if I can do 6 projects, but with my easy guys, and I try to form a relationship with you and you're difficult, well, now I can only do 4 projects in yours because you need more of my attention. Now, being easy comes with trust. You have to trust the dude that's doing your job in order to give him that rope to be easy with him, right? But it's a fine line. I would give the trust early. Give the trust early. Give the trust and give it without stipulation. You put your best foot forward of who you're willing to be as an investor before thousands of dollars exchanged during that like networking meeting, the walkthroughs, all those things, right? Present yourself very easy, and that guy will work with you. And then when he gives you a time frame, if he hits the other marks, right? Like showed up, communicated well, professional, if he's hitting those marks and you're being easy and the communication is flowing, you should wait. even if it's 30, 45 days, man. And that's a reasonable time frame. If anybody tries to put you like 90 days out, they're just trying to shelf you.
Yeah.
Okay. No contractor is taking your job and being like, I'll get to it in 90 days.
Yeah.
But 30, 45 days for a busy guy that does full remodel, if he's super busy, packed, not even able to take your shit on really, 30, 45 days is a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
And if you get lucky and you get this guy and he's good, you will save every bit of that 30, 45 days back by him being good and following the process versus you rushing somebody in and trying to get started right away. Yeah. It's just a harder 35 days to wait, or 30, 45 days to wait, sitting on your hands. But there's things you can do.
Yeah.
There's things you can do during that 30, 45 days while you're waiting for him. You could put some elbow grease in there. You know, you could take the outside part of the project and have it done. You know, you could demo the house or clean it out for him. You know, you could do a couple things as you wait. I have my permitted stuff that requires stickers. I have that stuff done before I even touch the house. So a really good strategy for, you know, when you have to wait for a contractor that's busy, get a house while it's still grandma's house. You get that water heater done, get that stack done, get that panel done, right? Get the furnace done, get those things done that require a sticker. Then the electrical plumbing inspector come into grandma's house. They have no idea that a full remodel is going to take place or what you're going to do. And they sticker your panel and they sticker your water heater and they don't ask no questions and they leave. And now you have a pulled legal permit done by a plumber. Everything was legal by the book to code. It's stickered. And now you're about to start a full remodel 30 days later. And then that occupancy inspector at the end, he comes in and he, to inspect your full remodel. He sees a stickered panel. He sees a stickered water heater. He sees everything mechanically functional in the right spot. He's like, oh, this is a guy that does it the right way. I don't really need to put everything in here.
You know what I mean? As much.
Yeah. I like that.
Goes much easier, I think.
Well, that's a good point too, because I think I've seen it with other people that I've talked to or worked with in coaching groups and things like that, where it's like they'll book it and then just wait and not do anything else. And it's like there's so much stuff you could get done in 30, 45 days. Like you said, I really like that too, with doing water heaters, panels, HVAC systems, all that kind of stuff that I love that. Well, it's grandma's house. Like, yeah, they're just going to think, we just did some updates in the house to make grandma more comfortable. Cool. Let's get this fixed and get it taken care of. I like that.
I love demo. I love breaking shit. So
I got another panel of that fake glass here at the office from filming if you want it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. But I mean, going back to the contractor of this house, it was towards the end of it, right? So we're putting the LVP down. That's kind of one of the last things, and then obviously the trim and things like that. So he picks it up for me. The next day, it's all in the garage and I count them and there's 6 missing. 6 boxes of the LVP. So I, call him. I say, hey, you need to get up here. And he comes to the house and I talk to him. I was like, dude, there's 6 boxes missing. And, the receipt says everything's here. Everything's accounted for. Where are they? So this is the day before. Well, the back of his trailer opened and 6 boxes slid out. He didn't tell me. So he was just going to just put the floor in without telling me that 6 boxes slid out, right? And I was like, where? And he told me where. And I actually drive there. He left 6 boxes just scattered all over the road on Big Bend in Kirkwood. Just shit everywhere.
Oh, man.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
So there's pieces of flooring all over the boxes. And I was like, dude, you didn't even pick it up. I said, this floor's going in and we're done. We're done. Yeah. Well, I needed a shitty job on my floor and I'm still dealing with it today. Like there's still things I'm dealing with where I'm like, man. So it was definitely a lesson learned for me. I did quote unquote date him before I hired him. He's a veteran like I am. We both were in Iraq at the exact same time. So we were talking war stories and he seemed like a really good family man, had, kids. And I was like, man, this is like a dream come true. I found a contractor. But then, just as the days went on, it was just one thing after another, after another, after another, where I'm like, even to this day, almost a year later, I'm still finding myself saying to Susie upstairs, like, oh my God, this thing right here, I want you to punch John in the face. I was like, I just want to punch him. you know, and she's like, dude, it's been a year, get over it. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, I hate that guy.
Like, it still stings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, with those guys, man, and this is another hard thing. So the problem is the right decisions to make are hard. Waiting 45 days for a professional contractor that's busy, that is clearly the right thing to do. You have a 2 to 3 month project. Why would you expect somebody to be available at the drop of a hat to be able to do a 2 to 3 month project if they're regularly doing 2-3 month projects?
Yeah.
You know, so you want to wait that time. And then the other thing that people don't want to do is fire fast.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that people don't want to do, but it is absolutely the best plan, the best option. If you start to notice that, you know,
this counts with employees too. Like, contractors, employees, anybody.
Don't drag it out, because it's getting worse. And then especially with construction, where they're putting in a product, and how durable and how well that product was put in is completely dependent upon their abilities to do it. So if they start slacking early in other areas, you can bet that what they're going to do in the house is not going to be to the right quality. And then you could have to go even farther back by trying to force something that should have just ended. So, you know, fire fast and wait for a professional. When you're doing these big things, there's an order of operations. You know, not every handyman construction guy, even if he's great at bathroom remodels, even if he's great at kitchen remodels, there is a process to be followed when you're remodeling the entirety of a home from the start to finish, to avoid the hiccups, to avoid the pitfalls. And somebody that's not equipped to follow that process, they just, you know how to do sections of their work, they're going to run into a lot of different struggles, not being strategic about how they complete that process.
I like that. I've got
good advice.
Yeah, no, it really is. I've got it's still along the same lines, but so let's say someone like Vince, right? He's hiring and working with multiple contractors or subcontractors, whatever it is. He's hiring different people to do the house. How would you recommend someone tracks everything? Right? Like, is it a simple Excel spreadsheet? Is it is there a CRM or a software or something that you recommend? Like, because that's something that I know with rehabs I've done, even with other people at times. It's like, okay, who's coming next? Like, where's the shipment of stuff? So I'm kind of curious, like, what your input is on just tracking things.
Yep. So I do things in a couple different ways. I recently, now that I'm buying all these properties, I had to learn Excel, and I had to, and I have to make spreadsheets on Excel to track cost everywhere. So that was a challenge for me. One of my investor buddies that we manage for, he came over and taught me, because I downloaded it and I'm trying to use it and I'm just clicking on shit and nothing's working, and I'm like, I fucking hate this thing.
Yep.
So he came over and he taught me all this fucking like secret code that you're supposed to type in to get it to do things, and I'm like, how in the fuck was I supposed to know any of that? And apparently they teach whole schools on this shit. But I do feel as an investor, and I just recently have done this after 300 remodels, but I do feel as an investor, an Excel spreadsheet that tracks the cost as it's, kind of coming in for each property as a budget is absolutely necessary. So I do that. I also use multi-pocket folders for active projects. And I separate the different paper, files and things that I get as the whole entire project is active. And so I can just kind of refer back to this in a quickness if I need to see anything,
right there.
Cost of anything. And then as far as like the work goes, so that's a thing I do a little bit differently, that I kind of came up with a process years and years ago for my construction company to be able to scale my construction company, and also to keep my construction company going if something happens to me. Because I got a lot of guys, and I'm the one who plans these days out every day. So if I'm not here, there's virtually nobody to send out 8 guys to different job sites, right? So We have every day, and I don't know if you're going to be able to get a contractor to do this, but if you find a guy that wants to like directly work, with you and just do your rehabs, you may be able to get them to do something similar. But every day, my site leader has to do their notes at the end of the day for every site that they're at. So the notes will include the street name, the date, and how many people were there. And then the notes will include their task completed. So he writes down every single thing that he did at that house that day. Then they write down the to-dos, which are the next steps in the process, any small details that they may have uncovered that need to be addressed that they weren't equipped to address, or any large parts of the process that are now upcoming. And then materials, which is an entire list of materials to take us from anything that they found on to the next process of the to-dos. So you'll have your task completed, your to-dos, and then your materials on 3 separate paper that they write out every day. Then we use Evernote, and so then they upload that into different notebooks that I make in Evernote for each house, along with pictures from the site of anything particular that we need to see, and a picture every day of all of the current materials that are on site. So
smart.
with my 8 guys, I'll have them go to maybe 5 different locations in a day. And then at the end of that day, they'll all put in from 5 different locations a note in Evernote for that day. And it'll have the task completed, the to-dos, the materials. So then I'll come in at the end of the day and I will review what's occurred at all of our different sites. And I'll then intake that information, and based off of what needs to be completed or what order of operations the projects are going, and then send out the team to new sites the next day based off of each one of the members of my team individual skills and ability to complete things. And that's how every day will flow. So that's how I manage 5 to 10 full interior remodels at one time. Is I get daily updates of everything that's done, everything that needs to be done, what I need to do it, and pictures of each site in its current condition.
Yeah. And using something like Evernote too, so you can look at it literally anywhere, right? You could be
and
office,
all my
home,
guys
on
have
the road.
access to it. Yeah, all my guys can update it. They can look at it. And again, so let's say, God forbid I get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? And this is a real thing for me because I got 8 guys that make good money with me, that feed their families this way, right? So, let's say, God forbid, I can't do something for 2 weeks. What do these guys do? What do they just don't pay their mortgage, their bills? They have to work. So the way the process is set up, none of them may be able to plan a full interior remodel, but they're all trained to do the day, write down what they did, write down what needs to be done next, and write down the materials to do it. So theoretically, and I've never been hit by a bus and gone down for 2 weeks, so we've never had to play this scenario out. But theoretically, my guys should be able to double up, get in teams, go to projects, and complete an individual day, and then move it on to the next day. And it may be struggled, and it may be, moving on with a limp, but these guys would be able to continue their jobs, continue the work, and continue to make money, even if I wasn't necessarily there to give out the orders every single day.
Tools are there for them to be able to move on if needed.
Absolutely. So
Love that.
That's my process.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, this has been great. I'm going to switch gears because I said we were going to talk about it at the beginning, but Rottweilers, I'm very curious. You're starting to breed these.
Yeah, passively. Passively.
Because you already have like 2, don't you? Like that are your family pets?
Yep. So I got 2, and they're purebred Rottweilers. I got the breeding rights on the girl. So I am going to breed them. I'm going to wait the first year. It's not anything that I want to turn into a big business.
Yeah.
But them damn things are expensive. And in 10 years or so, when the family dog needs to be, move forward, I want to be able to have my own litter.
Yeah.
As well as The businessman in me who paid $5,000 for Rottweilers wants to recoup some of that money.
Yeah.
So a couple litters of puppies in between now and when I want to pick one,
Yeah.
might not hurt. They go for like 2,500 a puppy.
That's crazy.
So
I didn't realize that
yeah,
they're that expensive.
yeah. So I can sell them for like $1,000 purebred, and I probably would just not even be able to hold on to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
no joke.
not anything I want to do actively, super actively, but I love my Rottweilers, man. That's my favorite dog. I got two of them. They're the sweetest, most intelligent dog I ever had. So I actually train them every weekend. I take them alternating. I got a girl and a boy. So we go to Home Depot and Petco, and we walk up and down the aisles every Saturday, and I train them around people. I train them they walk right at my hip, and kind of do the whole heel thing through the store. So
yeah.
Isn't that funny
I
that
really
wherever
kind of
there's a
enjoy
Home
that.
Depot, there's also a Petco?
Isn't that, yeah, that
Yeah.
is weird. Very common.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's funny too, because like I've never had a Rottweiler, but like they're always in movies and shows. They're always the mean, like angry dogs. But you're like the fifth person that's told me that like they're just like the nicest dogs ever. It's like similar with pit bulls. It's how you raise them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I got a 5-year-old and those guys and a 120-pound male Rottweiler. And those two go at it like WWE. I'll come out of the room, and the Rottweiler will be dragging my 5-year-old across the room with a rope, and then he'll get up and jump on his back, and he'll ride him around and tackle him to the ground. And yeah, those two, and you can tell when they're being gentle, because with me he's not gentle. He'll try to put my ass to the ground.
Yeah.
And we go back and forth every now and then and play, and it's a lot rougher. But with my 5-year-old, I mean, he will just gently kind of put him down with his mouth and play with him. So it's cool to watch.
That's cool.
But yeah, the best dogs I've ever owned. And I got a 3-acre lot at my house that's just flat. So we put an electric fence around about an acre and a half, and they have those collars. So they just literally have free run of a big flat acre and a half. So they just love it out there.
Not bad. That's awesome, dude. Mm-hmm. Well, very cool. Any questions for us? And then I want to give you a chance to kind of talk about your rehab class. You have one coming up, right?
Yep. February 24th.
Yeah. If you want to, any questions you have.
Other than we need to get together and chat more about direct marketing.
Yeah, we do.
You are the man, and I am, trying to. That's like on the front of my mind and has been for years now, because I know how young I am and I know how long I plan on being in this, and I know where I'm headed. And to me, it's just something I should absolutely have out there, because it takes saturation to be effective, but it is proven effective for every single successful individual that does anything similar to what I'm doing. It's just a matter of, again, making that hard choice to dedicate those funds and dedicate that time to really, well oiling that machine so it works for you. But then after you do that, it's kind of perpetual, and it's kind of, it's just something that you can't do without it. You can't reach that many people yourself. So
yeah. And
I think that's a whole nother conversation for another day. We need to get together and see what that entails, because I am really big on trying to get that to work now. I'm again trying to learn prop stream right now, and it's the same thing. I'm trying to figure that out right now. But when I get that, I'm going to have some awesome ass lists put together based off of my market knowledge and like my fluorescent zone. So I'll keep you posted
anytime, man. Yeah, let me know anytime. Happy to help on that. We'll go grab lunch or something and talk about it.
So you're mostly like Florissant, Hazelwood, that area.
So that's what I'm doing a lot of my volume in, because I'm very knowledgeable about values in that market. I can look at houses and know values without even looking at comps and ARVs, just because I've seen so many and been a part of so many out here. So that's my smart area to stay. but no, I'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, and I've kind of just realized that I niched myself into, everybody knows like Nick buys in Florissant, but kind of the counter to that is I think people aren't calling me for the other shit. Like, when they get the Florissant deals, they're like, oh, Nick, you know what I mean? But I want to be in St. Charles. I want to be in Baldwin. I want to be in St. Peter's. I want to be in some of these other areas too. So I've niched myself very well. But now I'm trying to kind of almost break free of that niche a little bit to let people know, like, you know, hey, my money's hot, you know, and it goes all over.
Yep.
So
yeah, man.
If you're listening, Nick buys in other places than Florissant.
Yeah,
that's right.
I
tell
say,
people,
man,
anywhere
I'm going to be doing
your wife at night, that's where I buy.
Yeah.
So
I'll be doing some marketing, you know, Baldwin, Manchester, you know, Kirkwood, in that area. So I'll hit you up.
Yeah, I'm in. Put me at the top of the buyers list. I can pay more than everybody else to get them.
I went to high school at Hazelwood West, so I'm very familiar with Hazelwood area too. So
yeah, I mean, I'm all over there too. We got tons of projects going around in 63031, 63033, 63030, one of those. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, cool. Let's talk about your rehab class. I know you've done a couple of these since you did that last speaking engagement that I saw, and it seems to be going really well. So if people are local in St. Louis, or if they're not and they want to come spend a day with you and kind of learn about this, how does that work? How can people find you?
Yeah, so we're all over Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube now. So we're actually going through a rebranding. So it's been up to now, it's been the Rehabber's Playbook. But when we actually looked into like purchasing that domain and business, I actually found another Rehabber's Playbook.
Okay.
Different experience, but this guy offers more of an actual playbook where he's got a business that kind of gives you pay for, and you get his content, and you get like this online digital book that has information and shit like that, right? So I'm always, my dreams are very big. So yeah, he's in Iowa. Maybe I could just slightly change the name a little bit, but I would rather stand out more than, maybe I'll reach Iowa with this class. So we're changing the name. So the name is going to fit more of what it actually is now. So the name is going to be the Rehabber's Experience, because I'm not offering you a playbook. I'm actually providing you more of an experience, and I'm sharing my experience of over 300 different remodels with you. So that domain's available, that business is available, and it fits the structure of what I'm doing much better. So it is now going to be the Rehabber's Experience. So nice. It's kind of a one of a kind class. There's really nothing out there that I have seen in all of the networking that I do that is like it. So what I do is I take a group of 10 individuals to 2 different job sites, 2 personal job sites that I have going on. The first job site is going to be completely demoed, opened up, walls opened, any walls that I'm going to be removing, gutted, and all the mechanics of the electrical and plumbing systems and the framing repositioned and installed. So I'm going to actually walk with this group of 10 from the outside all the way down to the utility room. We're going to walk this entire rehab while you can see right through the walls, and I'm going to explain every single thing. It's an open question walkthrough kind of forum. So we touch on everything that you want to know as we walk through every section of the house. I talk about strategy. I talk about where to put your money. I talk about where you see the highest return for your money. I talk about where you can save money, because remember, this is not new construction. We're buying 50, 60-year-old houses, and we're improving them. You know, so you have to learn to work with what you have. And then we walk on the inside, and I go over mechanics. I go over technicals. I go over how to know when to remove areas of walls and what to look for. So we will literally walk this entire rehab project with these 10 people, and I will let them see straight through the walls and explain every technical aspect of what the beginning parts of the process entail, answering any questions they may have. So that lasts from about 9 to noon. Then we go to lunch for about an hour. Then we all meet back up at a second project location. Now, this project location proves I know my shit. So this project location is decked out, beautiful, completed, hopefully sold, on market for sure, but absolutely 100% completed. In that project, I have poster board size pictures of the befores of each section of the house created. And I hang posters of each section of the house, the before picture, in the section where it's completed. So we'll walk through this beautifully staged, finished rehab. We'll look at the before pictures as we walk through. And again, in a second sight with different circumstances, different situations, I'll explain every aspect of the remodel while we look at the end stage. I'll explain the strategy, where I put my money, why I put my money there, where I got my biggest return, well, why I kept the things that I kept and how we worked with what we had, as well as all the different technical aspects of what was there and why I moved it. We'll walk through this second project as a group, open question forum. Man, it's just, I wanted this to feel more like we're hanging out on a Saturday, and it absolutely does. It doesn't feel like you're in a class. It doesn't feel like you're listening to me talk. It feels like this is your rehab and we're walking through it, creating a plan. And that's what I really wanted. So we have an awesome time at these two projects. Everybody kind of networks amongst each other, so that works out great. And then I'm all about value. I don't want to take a dime from anybody if I don't give them a quarter. And that's my personal, that's who I want to be. Where I come from, I was a person that not only lacked value, but I would take value from those around me and really not think twice about it. You know what I mean? I was kind of a user as a young teenager and that shitty individual. And I just, again, I want to be the opposite of that. So these days I'm all about adding value. So let's say you take my class, the class is $750, and let's say you hate every word I said. You're like, what the fuck did I come to? And this guy didn't teach me nothing, right? At the end of the class, I provide everybody who took my class, every single vendor that I use to complete my projects, from the people that provide my insurance to master licensed plumbers and electricians to drain cleaners to my cabinets and granite hookup, right? Everybody I call, I give you their name, I give you their number, and I give you a breakdown of each individual and how best to deal with them. So we'll sit down, we'll go over the list. I'll explain to you every individual on that list, what they do, how I use them, and how you can best use them. And then just to give it a little bit extra, right, saying you hate that you paid me $750, I talked to about a dozen of my vendors, and I got them to offer first-time discounts for everybody who takes my class. So I've created a coupon book with coupons that line up with the vendor sheet that I give my the people that come to the class. And there's thousands and thousands of dollars in discount savings in this coupon book just by using some of my trades. And these aren't Bob's uncle's handyman. These are master licensed plumbing and electrical trades that can pull your permits, do your full interior remodels. Just one of my coupons out of the dozen is 45% off of cabinets and granite with my cabinets and granite distributor.
Okay.
So you guys know how much that costs. If you get $10,000 worth of cabinets and granite and a kitchen bath combo, you'll save $4,500 with just the one coupon that I provide you from my class. 4 times the value of what you paid me. So it's a win-win no matter what. It's for the people that really want to see it and put their hands on it before they have to pay somebody else to do it with their own money. And it's a really cool time, man. I enjoy doing it. I'm putting a lot of money into trying to expand the reach I have. I hired like a social media marketing company. I really want to try to be able to get this class out to more people that need it, because we've had 3 so far. They've been completely sold out, and all 30 people have said really, really positive things about the value that they've gained from it. And so I just want to keep doing it. I don't want to get disconnected from like the new investors and things like that as I evolve into my career. I want to stay connected with the people getting started so I can help them out, man, because it's hard when you're starting out.
It is. That's one of the most valuable things I think I've heard in a 1-day course. I might be coming.
I know. I was like, when is it? And
yeah,
and I are coming. Dude, just hearing that is just absolutely brilliant. And I just think you're like one of the coolest dudes that we've had the privilege to have on the podcast. Even though our podcast is pretty new, but dude, it's just super solid. I love hearing your story. I love your processes. I love your integrity and your value in this and your passion in this. It's just it's like it's giving me goosies, dude. Like I just to hear where you're at. It's phenomenal, and take that to heart for sure.
I do. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. I've said this about a couple podcasts so far, but every time it happens, like, well, this one just outdid the last one. This is probably my favorite podcast we've done so far. So I think it's only your second or third podcast, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this is only the second one I've done.
Dude, fantastic.
I did just get invited to speak at Richard Groves. He's
nice.
a Riverside Roundtable event. So I'm going to speak in May at his event, and I'm just trying to get myself out there like this because this still makes me really uncomfortable.
I know.
That means I'm growing. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to get myself out there, talk to more people, share my story, because man, there was a point in my life I felt really, really hopeless, and now when I the way I feel like $1 million. You know, I feel like I'm on top of the world. I have a beautiful family that I get to lead. I have an awesome team. I have businesses running. I got so much stress, but I created it, and I'm looking at it. Just love every freaking minute of it. I'm so appreciative and humbled and grateful that you guys even want to talk to me, man. Because again, I was a kid that you would have no reason to even acknowledge, and now here for you to invite me here, I'm very appreciative that you guys,
absolutely,
said very cool things and had me on here to kind of share my story, and I hope it helps somebody.
Absolutely. I think when you spoke at Faster House, I don't remember if it was October or November, but it was right at the time we started this podcast. So I was like, he needs to be on. Like, I don't know when, but we'll make it happen. So thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
Awesome. No problem, brother.
Awesome.